Hi everyone, welcome back to Project No Buy. In today's video, I wanted to talk about becoming truly influence proof. So, in recent developments, I guess, on my no buy journey, I actually have felt like I've been through a turning point in becoming truly influence proof, and it feels like I'm kind of out of a tunnel that I can consume basically any kind of content that I care to consume. And I don't really care to consume influencer content anymore, but that's kind of beside the point. Basically saying that I can basically watch anything, the must-haves, the fashion recommendations, the latest viral item, and the things that I previously would have wanted or been interested in or thought I should check out have no effect on me anymore. And I think a number of things have contributed to this, both in learning all the background of how bad things are, overconsumption, and how negative the consequences are on the people and the environment, of our earth. So there's definitely a big part of that. But ultimately, I do think the biggest piece to fall into place for me was being able to trust myself. And this took a long time to get to where I am today. It took a long time. And I couldn't have followed a set of steps that I knew about, I guess, to get myself here. It's kind of only in hindsight that I see that now that I kind of trust myself or prioritize my own needs over what society is telling me or what other people who seem to have it together or who seem to be cool or who have social proof have been telling me, or have been living or demonstrating through their own content and their own sharing, I now don't really become affected by that anymore. And it's not that I suddenly don't see these things or don't have the awareness of how, for example, I am not necessarily the most popular type of person out there. And I used to think that I should try to become more popular or try to become more kind of generally likable, I guess, maybe. And, everybody wants to be liked and appreciated and, find their people, I guess. And for some reason, we might be socially conditioned to believe that finding the most people is a better sign of success or a better sign of acceptance. And even just through this journey on social media, I am aware that I'm kind of in the middle of the road. And in some ways, it's hard to contextualize because I'm also acutely aware of the fact that some people start a YouTube channel and never make it past the 1,000 subscriber mark to monetization, which is a goal for a lot of people. And other people start a YouTube channel and blow up and have 100,000 subscribers within their first year. And I am neither one of those, I guess. I'm on neither end of the spectrum. And it's hard sometimes to not see the, I guess, popularity aspect of YouTube or of social media in general when all of the algorithms or all of the suggestions in even the content creation side, the studio side, are kind of geared towards increasing popularity, increasing views, increasing reach. And it's taken a while for me to tune that out or to manage, I guess, how to take in that information, how to navigate it when that wasn't ever my goal in creating a YouTube channel. Not my primary goal anyway. I have created YouTube channels before with the goal of trying to monetize, trying to become popular. Just one in particular, I guess, the Conscious Consumerism original channel. And that channel didn't last very long. Again, because the goal was monetization and I guess making a living off of trying to make videos online, trying to share life, I guess, in a way that would be appealing to other people. And I let go of that for this rendition. I viewed monetization as something that would be nice if it happened, but also not something that I was actively pursuing. And maybe there was a period in which I mean, for the most part, everything I've created here has been completely organic. Even the videos reacting to TikTok content was an intentional effort to try to understand my previous attraction to that type of content. And so nothing was done purely with the intent of gaining views or subscribers or watch time or any of the metrics, popularity, etc., increased revenue. And for, I guess, full transparency, my revenue in the past couple of months has been in the $300 to $500 range. So it's really not anything that's survivable, or honestly, it doesn't even cover a monthly grocery bill for my family of 5. And, it's not, and not to say that it doesn't make a difference. Absolutely it does. But it's not something that would ever make me consider pursuing it as a full-time career, at least not at this stage. And honestly, probably not at any stage. I just don't think I'm cut out for it. I have a hard time making content that I'm not fully invested in or fully interested in. And I do find that my own interests tend to move very quickly. Even now versus when I filmed some of the videos that were filmed earlier from November, my thoughts have changed slightly, my experience has changed slightly, and sometimes I have to make copious editing additions to videos because things have already changed. And so I just don't think I'm cut out to be a content creator or to try to cater to popularity in that way. That was kind of a huge tangent because basically the message of this video is to become influence proof. I think the number one thing to cultivate is trust in yourself. And what happens with that increased trust in yourself is that recommendations from other people become secondary. It becomes truly secondary to what you need, what you have developed an interest in an organic way, based on what has come up in your own life, and makes it so that you aren't convinced, or false needs aren't able to be put into your mind, into your desires by exterior forces. It's also easier to see what you currently have as enough, or as representations of the person you would like to continue to be. And I did a video recently on the things that feel the most like mine. Ironically, this sweater is one of those. And I truly love wearing this sweater. And I don't have any regrets about buying it, or days that I care honestly about how it might seem to other people. I am aware that perhaps to some people this style of sweater is a frumpy design, right? It's oversized, it's a turtleneck. To some people it might be itchy. I've not found that a problem. If it were itchy, I would probably not continue wearing it because comfort is my number one priority in my clothing. So, materials are a personal thing. But style-wise, nobody's going to be able to convince me that I shouldn't be wearing this sweater, even if it's not flattering, even if it's frumpy, even if it's not young and cool and hip. I don't care. And I cannot be made to care. And I think that's perhaps a point of difference that was not as firmly embedded in my soul as it is today. And it enables me to see content online and not judge or laugh, or, I don't want to be negative, but I think one of the most recent things I saw on TikTok was a glass cup from Starbucks in the shape of a bear that apparently everybody was obsessing over. And I don't go on TikTok very often anymore at all. And I don't know if this content was served to me because that's the kind of content I used to engage with, and it used to kind of get me, and I, in a previous life, would have seen that and been like, oh, that's so cute. Maybe I should go see if I can get one. I was never in the realms of lining up at 6 a.m. or, trying to fight people for the Trader Joe's bags or anything like that. But I was in the realms of being interested in every kind of little trend that came past my eyeballs, exhibit A right here. And I don't know that, this is a fairly recent example from June, I want to say. So this summer, I was still kind of engaging in these habits. We're in November now, so I guess it has been several months. Maybe things really have changed that drastically in this period of time. But I do think it's been a slow burning process and a slow build. And so I don't know that it's possible to achieve this overnight. And maybe even just knowing this isn't that helpful for you out there. But I just wanted to share my journey anyway, because I do think the experience of No Buy 2026 will be different than No Buy 2024. And again, it's hard to know before it actually happens, but how I feel contemplating it this year is that it's going to be drastically easier to the point of perhaps being uninteresting. And it might be a year of kind of slogging through these updates because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'm going to want. I don't know how I'm going to handle it. I don't know how I'm going to feel. but I do feel changed inside. And I don't know that I am going to have the same kind of, in 2024, a lot of my early videos were the list of things I wanted to buy but didn't, where there'd be massive lists of things that I had seen, mostly online, that I wanted to buy. And sometimes, even in 2024, which was supposed to be my no-buy year, I did buy them. And I couldn't resist the pull of the desire, and I couldn't resist giving in to at least some of these things. And while I did manage to resist others, and that's representative of progress in that earlier stage, I just don't feel like I'm going to have the same struggle in 2026. And watch these be famous last words, but I don't feel the same. And we'll just wait and see. We'll wait and see if I can manage to do a complete no-buy year with specific rules and exceptions, as everybody has. But I'm just not as captivated by consumerism as I used to be. And that, to some extent, does include critiques on consumerism, examinations of the negative aspects of consumerism. I kind of feel like I've been through these dark tunnels and come out the other side. And I don't necessarily feel like it's my job, per se, to go back in there and try to break these things down and explain. And, it's maybe not my job nor my forte. It's not my strength either. And so, perhaps that's just further exemplified by having begun work on my music channel and realizing, this is something that I can do that not many other people can do. And I should really put more effort into that. Whereas this niche of talking about consumerism, conscious consuming, is a niche that many other people do well, better than I can, and maybe that's okay. And that's something I can also let go of and not try to be, again, not that I have been, but not try to be optimizing, not try to be growing or maintaining or caring about metrics in any sense. Again, not that that's ever been the focus, but it's almost impossible not to notice how, you see other channels that maybe started at a similar time as yours or do videos on similar topics as you, and some of these channels blow up, and other times channels like yours actually lose subscribers on, the number goes up and down by two or three people every kind of video you post. And so it's not something that makes me feel bad, but it's something that's impossible not to notice. And interestingly, maybe that's part of what's helped me get out of this cycle, or get to this point of trusting myself over exterior influence. And it's not something I could have planned. It's not something that, again, I'm grateful for the size and level of community that I do have. Actually, I think it's perfect for me, and I wouldn't ask for it to have gone any differently. And I do actually consider myself miraculously lucky to have reached the number that I have and to have attained any monetization at all. It is really a nice bonus for the work of creating videos. I put it in quotes. It is work, but it is also something I do entirely by choice. And so, take that as you will. Going into the specific examples that I've journaled about here, I was thinking once again about the things that I was influenced to want recently. I made a video on that in October, I believe. And in these examples, there's still remnants of that feeling that somebody else knows better than I do, which is not something I blame creators for, right? This is an internal working within myself that I've only just untangled, I feel like. And so I do think influencers present themselves as that all-knowing force sometimes, the force that knows better, even when they try not to, even when they put themselves out there intentionally as a relatable or a just like you or a half-ass human or, whatever it is, I do think maybe it's just the nature of the medium or the nature of communication. People who are good at communicating are often very persuasive, but they come across as people who know things or know about the subject that they're talking about. And maybe some of it is genuine, because I do feel like, in my own case, by examining not buying things for almost 2 years, I have become more of an expert in trying not to buy things than the average person on the street who perhaps hasn't put as much thought and focus and journaling into this topic. So it's not to say that there's no expertise either in the influencer sphere. Even the kind of more consumerist-focused influencers do have some expertise through having done the type of work that they've done for however long they've done it. The makeup creators do know which products are better because they've tried products out, they've compared them, they've thoughtfully, they have their own metrics for what makes something better or worse. And so I'm not saying you can't trust what people say. The fashion creators have experienced what looks certain ways on certain bodies, what styles and colors go together, etc. I'm not saying that they don't have valuable knowledge, but I am saying that I discounted my own wants, needs, desires, lifestyle restrictions or dictations, like what I actually need for my life, in favor of all of this advice from people that knew better than I did. And I kind of let those things, which should have been first, fall by the wayside in favor of these opinions of other people, and in most cases popular people with tens, hundreds, millions of followers, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of followers, who were kind of providing the social proof that these people knew better than I did, that I, if in doubt, should listen to these people. And again, I'm not saying that that's entirely wrong or entirely a bad idea, but I am saying that in the efforts to not buy things, not want things, not be in the cycle of kind of guilt or convincing myself I don't need something, or being in the cycle of feeling like I should change things about my life that don't really need changing, in the interest of that, it's for me right now, again, this is my point in this journey, it's been really helpful for me to learn to trust myself, learn to put my life first, and either not listen to these opinions, the exterior, outside opinions, the advice of influencers, or learn to take it as secondary. And so I did do that period of not consuming content at all, or kind of really dialing it down, unsubscribing from every fashion creator, every makeup creator, every beauty kind of whatever influencer guru. And I have not resubscribed to these people. And I've actually lost interest in most other content as well. The consumer critiques, even, like, there are some creators I still watch because of them as a person, because of their personality, and that aspect of maybe kind of spending time with a parasocial friend on my drive to work or during an otherwise downtime period. But I have largely stopped being interested in hearing the opinions of others in a non-confrontational way. Like, I'm not hunkering down and shutting everybody out and trying to shelter myself. That's not what I'm saying either. But there's just been a little bit of a pivot. And I do believe it's this pivot that has made me influence proof from this day forward. Yeah, we'll see. And I guess perhaps my closing idea of this video is that I am allowed to be an expert in my own life, and my own expertise in my life can override the expertise of an influencer in whatever category they make content about. And that's okay. And I think it's more than okay. I think it's necessary in order to have that conviction to stick to my own desires, my own needs, and avoid the pull of all these consumer products that are flying around us in today's society. To avoid the concept of wanting and desiring the next thing as a pastime or a hobby, or as a way to be accepted or engage with people outside in our community, people our own age, people in our own kind of, people we want to be connected to, in other words. And again, the self-proclaimed or society-proclaimed cool girls or cool whoever, cool guys, cool people, we can be a cool person, even if it's just to ourselves. And even if we're not a cool person, we don't have to be cool, there's no magical power that comes with attaining the status of the it girl, the it person, the cool insert, fill in the blank here. And I do think this kind of largely constructed idea, I'm not trying to dismiss the privilege that does exist in the world in saying this, but I do think the idea of attaining status through any consumer behavior is largely manufactured and happens as a result of letting society's waves and trends and whims and fancies override our own. And I am opting not to do that anymore, to not let that happen. Again, maybe it's just a part of growing up. Maybe I've grown up more slowly than I should have in my early 30s now, but maybe this is just the natural cycle of life and learning myself more feeling my own life and not letting other things get in the way. It's also possibly something that ebbs and flows. You know, maybe it's not something related to maturing or becoming a certain age or anything, but perhaps it goes more in phases. You know, I could believe that very easily just based on how my own life has kind of gone in waves of being more or less interested in consumerism and influencers and that kind of content, those kind of areas of the internet. And, you know, perhaps keeping that in mind, cultivating this sense of trust in myself and prioritizing my own wants and needs and being able to see those wants and needs versus those that have been cultivated in me by exterior sources. You know, I think that's perhaps a lifelong skill to continue to prioritize so that I don't get as buffeted by the waves of society as I have been in the past. All right, so that was today's video on becoming influence proof. Let me know your thoughts, let me know your experience, let me know how you feel about it. And with that, I will say bye for now and see you in the next one.